Hi guys, this is Mark's Tech Vlogs on YouTube, and this is one of two videos on my channel that's a little bit different. So the other video I've made is a bootcamp review for the CareerFoundry's Full Stack Development Bootcamp, but today I wanted to talk about the process of finishing a bootcamp and getting a job in tech in the middle of a global pandemic. So let me give you a little bit of background. I am 33. I have worked in youth work my entire adult life. So I've done lots of work with teenagers, I've trained people on how to run youth groups, I've done mentoring, all kinds of extra things. And so lots of skills there that I'm taking across to my new career in web development. But I haven't worked as a web developer before. What I have done is had some freelance experience. So way back when I was 17, 18, I did a lot of stuff in sixth form around computers. So the hardware and the software, so taking them apart, putting them back together again, and also some basic programming. So back when every website looked awful, I learned some HTML and CSS. We had a couple of modules at sixth form on PHP, which I really didn't understand. And if you don't know what PHP is, it's a really old programming language from, I think it came out in 95, and it's still used all over the place on the web today. But I didn't really understand what I was doing at all at sixth form, but somehow got through it. And then in the kind of 10, 12 years between then and now, I worked in youth work, and alongside that I occasionally did websites for people. And by occasionally I mean there's probably about 10, so maybe one a year if we average it out. And largely for those I used WordPress, which is a free website building platform, so you can install it on any server you like. It's really cool, there's loads of web that runs on it. And then I used themes for that largely other people had developed. And so my knowledge of HTML, CSS and PHP, which WordPress runs on, was basically enough to hack around someone else's theme and make some tweaks if I wanted to make some tweaks, but not enough to do anything meaningful from scratch. And so I've always had this kind of interest in tech and a little bit in coding. And then 3 years ago, I had this idea for a smartphone app for youth work. And so I bought a £10 course on Udemy of how to learn iOS development. I downloaded Xcode on my Mac, and I worked through this course, and I was able to build this app, which is now in the App Store. It's been downloaded enough across the world to pay for my developer fee, but not for me to retire anytime soon. And that for me kind of opened this interest in coding. And so as I kind of continued working through that course and continued developing a couple of projects, I found myself kind of thinking, actually, I might quite like to do this as a career. So I looked around at boot camps and eventually settled on the CareerFoundry Full Stack Web Development Bootcamp last October. And there's more about that course in my review video for it and why I chose that course. But for me, it just worked because I could do it remotely in my own time and not worry too much about trying to juggle that and work, because I knew I could do it in evenings and weekends, and it could work around a slightly bizarre work schedule. So I came at that course having some knowledge from a long time ago, some knowledge I'd used throughout the last 10 years, and also having worked through some of the free Codecamp material and the Codecademy material. So I wanted to try and make sure that I had some understanding of modern HTML and CSS prior to starting the course. So I worked through some of that stuff, and both those sites, so free Codecamp and Codecademy, are worth looking at because they both got free content, and there are people who haven't spent money on a bootcamp who've just got a job out of using the free Codecamp material. Although I will say that the further along you get in it, the more bugs there are in some of their systems. And that is a criticism, but I want to recognise that their service is free. And so actually they're offering something that is incredibly good for free. And so it's not to knock them, it's just to say that for me, it was something I struggled with a little bit in places. So I started my bootcamp in October last year. I got a little bit ahead, which was quite helpful just because some of the stuff was stuff that I already knew, and that enabled me to focus on some of the other things. When there were bonus tasks, I went off and did them because I wanted to learn and understand as much as I could. And the more I coded, the more I enjoyed myself, the more I loved writing the code. I loved seeing things come to life. And the more I was thinking, actually, yeah, this is something I potentially want to do as a career. And then we got to March this year, so March 2020, and coronavirus hit. And so my plan of, well, if I finish the course at the end of May, I've then got 6 months where if this is definitely what I want to do, I can try and find something, just went on hold. I was quite close to finishing the course. I decided I would get to the last but one module on the course and take a break, because I just seen all the jobs disappear. So LinkedIn jobs boards, Indeed, every single kind of job just went because people weren't hiring people during the pandemic, especially junior developers. So I paused the course. So I started a couple of Udemy courses. So I did one on React Native, which was something I really wanted to learn. And I did one on WordPress as well, because having looked around at the jobs local to where I am, there were lots of companies asking people who knew WordPress. And I knew WordPress, but I didn't know it in depth. So I wanted to learn it a bit more in depth and go really deep with it. And so that course was really helpful for me as well. And I basically accepted that any plans I had needed to pause because of a pandemic. It wasn't a good time to be changing jobs. People weren't appointing anyone. I had a certain amount of job security in my current job. So I kind of stopped the course because I wanted to make the most out of the career support at the end of it. But I used that time to learn more. And I was actually put on furlough for work for a couple of months. So I was basically paid not to work as part of our government scheme here in the UK. I'm going to be honest, that was really good. I know there's lots of people who found furlough incredibly tough. But for me, I just treated coding like a job. And it was the thing for me that finally just kind of assured me that that's what I wanted to do. I got up in the morning motivated to code. I didn't want to stop at the end of the day. I did some extra stuff at weekends. I could go down rabbit holes, so I learned how to make an Alexa skill. I did a couple of apps for other things and connections that I've got with other people. So it gave me a chance to learn a lot and really improve my skills. And then at the end of July, I completed my CareerFoundry course. I had my final call with my mentor. We talked about getting jobs as they were beginning to appear again on jobs boards, and I started applying. CareerFoundry offer a career coach as well, so someone you check in with throughout your process of applying for jobs. So you typically get in touch with them every couple of weeks, but you can reach out to them if you want to chat in between as well. So if there's a particular job or a particular task you just want some advice for. The CareerFoundry career course also has that person look through your CV and your LinkedIn profile and a sample cover letter, just to help you make your CV and cover letter the best they can possibly be. And I'll share some tips about those things in a second. So I did all of the things that CareerFoundry recommended, and eventually I found a job after about 6 weeks of searching, which was much quicker than I expected. But I think what happened locally is when places started opening up again, all the people who were creating websites for other people were suddenly inundated. So there's a few marketing agencies I spoke to who basically said, we've got loads of websites to build because everyone realizes they now need to be online. And so they either need a website or they need to improve their existing website. And so that kind of led, I think, to a bit of a jobs boom in that kind of sector where I am, which certainly helped out. So what I want to do now is just talk through really practically some of the steps that I took that I think helped me get that job, but also that helped me get interviews. So I had 4 interviews in the end for different companies. I was sent some extra technical tests by other ones. And so I want to share some things that I did that I think helped with that. So firstly, I kept a log of applications. You get to a point where you are applying for quite a lot of jobs. Even if you just apply for 5 a week, that adds up really quickly. And it's really important to know what you've applied for. You typically find that where recruitment agencies are involved, quite often the same job will be listed several times. So it's important that you don't apply for the same job several times over. And keeping a log will help you out with that because you can compare the job descriptions, which are typically the same. It also enables you to very quickly work out who it is phoning you. So when a company phones you and says, hi, this is so-and-so from this company, you've applied for this role, you can fire up that database, you can click onto the job description, and you can just recap that company that you've applied for. And it's really useful being able to do that and work out what it is that you've applied for when you're having that conversation. Otherwise, when you have no idea what it is you've actually applied for when you're having that conversation, it really doesn't help. The second thing to talk about is about customizing your CV or your resume. And so when you apply for jobs, a really good tip that CareerFoundry give is they say change your title on your CV to match the job that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a front-end developer role, change your title to front-end developer. If you're applying for web developer, change it to web developer, and so on and so forth. The other thing you can include on your CV is particular projects that you want to highlight, whether they're projects you've done for other people or hobbies. And it's really important to change those depending on the job you're applying for. So if you're applying for a job where they want someone who can develop WordPress, don't just include React projects, include some WordPress projects there as well. I found that it was important to include a mix of client work and personal projects. So I did still include some React projects when I was applying for WordPress jobs because they were client work and they showed that I could create something a bit bigger and a bit more customized. And I think that was really useful. But make sure you try and tailor those projects to the job that you're applying for. And then thirdly, and it kind of follows on from this, but make sure you customize your cover letter. When you're applying for jobs, quantity is not necessarily a good thing. You want to aim for quality over quantity. And so rather than just churning out the same cover letter over and over again that people have probably seen before, what you need to do is try and customize it for the job that you're applying for and for the company you're applying for. So make sure you are talking about the company and what draws you to them. So if it's an organization who do lots of websites for different people, talk about why you enjoy variety. If it's a particular company, talk about why you like that product. So if, for example, you're applying for a front-end developer job at Apple, talk about why Apple is awesome. There is no harm in kind of bigging up the company you're applying for because it shows that you've got some passion for their product and what they do, and that's really important. When you're talking about your skills and what you've learned, it's also important to tailor that. So I found that a lot of the marketing agencies who build websites for other people want client experience. So if you've done some freelance work, it's really important to draw on that. Or if you haven't and you've got examples in your career where you have effectively worked with a client but not in a capacity of building a website, then try and draw on that experience in your cover letter, because it says actually I can code but I can also work with people. So that's really important. Just make sure you tailor your cover letter for the role that you're applying for. And then the final thing that I think helped is to pace yourself. It's really easy to put a lot of pressure on yourself to apply for 1,000,001 jobs. But actually one of the things I liked about the CareerFoundry guidance is that they say we expect you to apply for 5 jobs a week. And I don't know about you, but I don't think 5 is many. I was certainly finding there were potentially more than 5 I could apply for. But it's back to that quality over quantity thing. Like, actually make sure you are putting time into those applications. And also not applying for too many makes it less emotionally draining on you, because let's be honest, applying for jobs is emotionally difficult. It's challenging, particularly when you don't hear back from companies. Even if you've done a technical test, it can have a real impact on your self-esteem. So it's important to pace yourself with that. It's also really important that you keep practicing your coding as well. So don't go, well, I've finished my course, I don't need to code anything. Keep learning new things. If you're seeing something appear in lots of the job descriptions that you're reading and you don't know it, maybe have a go at learning some of that to try and find out more. Alongside that, it's important that you take breaks. It's important that you do other things that you enjoy away from your computer. So go for a run, spend some time with friends, listen to music, play guitar, whatever it is that makes you tick alongside coding. Make sure you're doing plenty of that as well, because that work-life balance is something that your body will thank you for. And it's really important you listen to your body, because our bodies are really good at telling us when we are tired or exhausted or just not in the right mood for something. And it's okay to listen to that. And so those are my tips. And so finally, let me talk about what landed me a job. And if I'm honest, I don't 100% know the answer to that. I'm convinced it's because I found the right position at the right company for me, and I think it's going to be a really good place to work when I start there in a couple of weeks. But I think there were a few things that really helped. Firstly, I think the pandemic actually helped me. So having 2 months off work where I could spend every day coding really gave me a chance to boost my skills. It gave me a chance to do a couple of freelance projects. It gave me a chance to learn new things. And I think that gave me the edge for like actually feeling like I knew my stuff with kind of technical knowledge. The other thing that helped was having done work with clients in the past in a freelance capacity. Whilst it wasn't a huge amount, even a little bit is worth doing. So if you can find yourself a little bit of freelance work, even if it's free that you do for someone, if you just build a website for your mate or for a local business and you don't charge them anything, that's still client experience, and it's still something you can talk about, and it's still something that's valuable. And then I think the other thing that really helped me was having that support from the career mentor as part of my bootcamp. Now, not everyone who's watching this video will have been through a bootcamp and have that level of support, or you might not feel that support you're being given through your bootcamp is good enough, but it is certainly worth having that. And so if you can find someone who can support you, whether that's a friend who perhaps knows a bit about this kind of thing, whether it's someone else in tech you can reach out to on Twitter or LinkedIn and ask for some help, whether it's like a paid coach or mentor that perhaps you recruit for your job search process, it's certainly worth looking at, and certainly worth trying to have someone there who can help you and support you and kind of listen to you when everything's rubbish, but also kind of cheer you on as well. And I think that's it. For me, it's felt like a real roller coaster. Like I didn't know if I could get a job out of this. And so it's been great to have that affirmed that I can. There's part of me that's kind of thinking, well, it all felt a bit too easy because it only took me about 6 weeks in the end. And I recognise that for some people it takes longer. But I just wanted to share some of that with you guys, in part as a way of kind of encouraging you, but also to hopefully help you out on your own journey as well. So if you've got any questions, do stick them below and I will try and answer those. Do like and subscribe to this channel. If you don't want to write a question below and you want to kind of hit me up on social media, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm @MarkTiddy, and I'll see you guys again soon.